Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're tackling a really crucial topic. It's about influence, getting access, and, well, those people who seem to hold the keys. The gatekeepers, you know that feeling, right? You're hitting a wall in your career, pushing hard, using all your skills, but the door just stays shut. Then suddenly it opens, not because you smashed it down, but because someone just let you in.
Exactly. And what's so interesting is that our sources argue this isn't about luck. It's actually a skill. Learning how to navigate this dynamic, seeing these gatekeepers not as roadblocks, but as necessary channels. Yeah, channels for opportunity. And the paradox the sources highlight is fascinating. Most of us, well, we either network like crazy collecting contacts or we push really hard trying to force our way through.
Right, the hustle mentality.
The hustle mentality, precisely. But we often completely miss the most effective path, building real ethical relationships with the people who are already in a position to open those doors. So our mission today is to unpack that, to show why these gatekeepers are essential, and how shifting your approach from, what can I get to how can I serve and build trust is the real key.
Okay, let's start there then. This term gatekeeper. It sounds a bit old-fashioned, maybe even a little intimidating. Who exactly are we talking about today in, say, a modern company or organization?
Well, the sources define them pretty broadly. It could be the obvious ones like decision makers, executives, but also mentors, even senior colleagues whose opinions shape who gets visibility or resources.
So not just the C-suite.
Definitely not. And crucially, sometimes the most powerful gatekeeper isn't the person with the biggest title. It might be the executive assistant who manages the CEO's calendar, or the mid-level manager who decides who gets put on that career-making project.
Ah, okay. So it's about understanding the whole ecosystem of influence, not just the person at the top.
Precisely. And the core insight here is moving away from seeing these relationships as leverage points, like purely transactional. If I do this for them, what do I get back?
The quid pro quo.
Right. Instead, the sources push us towards seeing them as spheres of mutual value. And they keep coming back to three key actions: learning to genuinely serve, to honor, and to steward these important connections.
Serve, honor, steward. Okay. And why is this so critical now? What's the risk of just ignoring this relational side and focusing only on performance?
The risk is significant, especially now. Things move so fast, right? Decisions often get made behind closed doors, informally, way before anything official is announced.
Yeah, you hear about a project only after the team is already picked.
Exactly that. So if you're just relying on your resume or trying to network superficially, you can easily get left behind. The sources argue that influence is concentrated, and navigating it requires purpose and contribution, not just frantic activity.
Okay, this makes sense. Now, the sources bring up a really powerful, almost ancient example to illustrate this. They call it the Joseph Protocol from Genesis. How does that story act as a blueprint here?
It's a fascinating lens. The sources present Joseph's story not just as, a tale of divine intervention, but as a practical masterclass in how favor actually flows through human structures and timing.
Okay, break that down. What are the key parts of this Joseph's Protocol?
Well, first, there's the principle of preparation. This is key. Joseph's rise wasn't just luck or sudden insight. His skills, administration, discernment, integrity were sharpened over years, in obscurity. First in Potiphar's house, then in prison.
So he wasn't waiting for the big break to start developing his talents. He was doing it managing a household, managing prisoners, kind of the daily grind.
Exactly. The point is, favor might open the door, but preparation is what allows you to actually walk through it and succeed. Excellence in the small things, the tasks you're already given, that's the foundation. Promotion starts where you are, not where you want to be.
That's a strong point. And then there's the part that really seems to clash with modern career advice. This idea of service precedes status. Joseph didn't seem to be networking upwards at all.
No, he really didn't. He wasn't trying to get FaceTime with Pharaoh or schmooze the warden for favors.
So what was he doing?
He was serving the people around him. Potiphar, the prison warden, even his fellow prisoners like the cupbearer and the baker. He served them with excellence and humility, focusing on the job at hand. He served sideways and downward, not just looking upward.
Okay, but hang on. Serving sideways and downward. How does that practically help you get ahead today? Most advice is about visibility, managing up, making sure the right people see your work.
That's a really fair challenge. The sources explain it this way. Serving sideways or downward builds something far more potent than visibility alone. It builds deep, authentic trust and establishes your reputation for reliability and character.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Think about a project manager who consistently treats the support staff, IT, admin, facilities with genuine respect. They help them out, they listen to their concerns, they acknowledge their contributions, they're serving sideways and downward.
Okay.
Now, when that project manager faces a crisis, a deadline looming, a technical glitch needing a quick connection in another department, who do you think those support staff are going to bend over backwards for?
The person who treated them well, presumably.
Exactly. The gatekeepers across the organization, not just above, feel comfortable helping, advocating, even moving mountains because that manager has built relational capital based on contribution and integrity, not just ambition. It transcends the org chart.
So it's about building loyalty through demonstrated character, not just through transactions.
Absolutely. And this ties directly into the third element, divine timing. Joseph didn't force the issue. The big door, the one to Pharaoh, only opened 2 years after he helped the cupbearer. Why? Because Pharaoh, the ultimate gatekeeper in that situation, suddenly had a critical, urgent need, the dreams.
A need only Joseph could meet at that moment.
Precisely. The sources frame this beautifully. Genuine promotion is often need-driven, responding to a specific problem, rather than purely ambition-driven.
The sources use that phrase sacred geometry, which I guess in a business context means understanding that timing isn't random. It's about the intersection of your readiness and a real present need.
Exactly. It's when your preparation, honed through service, meets a moment of necessity orchestrated, as the sources see it, by providence. This really underscores why just trying to manipulate situations often falls short.
Which brings us neatly to the contrast. Let's talk about that shadow side, the typical worldly networking that the sources seem quite critical of. Why does that often fail, professionally speaking?
Well, according to the sources, networking done purely for self-gain is inherently unstable. It's all about immediate ROI, right? Quick favors, superficial connections, it lacks depth.
And how does that play out badly in a career?
Several ways. First, it's exhausting. You're constantly juggling these shallow relationships, putting on a performance. Second, these connections are fragile, they lack loyalty. When you actually need real support, they might not be there.
Because the foundation isn't solid.
Exactly. And third, it encourages being performative, making a big show for visibility's sake rather than genuinely honoring people. If you only reach out when you need something, people see through that pretty quickly. The relationship just can't withstand pressure.
So trying to force connections or manipulate outcomes isn't just ethically dubious, it's actually, well, strategically weak. You build a house of cards.
That's a great way to put it. It's strategically weak. The sources propose, this kingdom alternative, is about alignment. It suggests favor flows more naturally to those whose actions are aligned with a purpose bigger than just themselves.
And that authenticity becomes a kind of currency.
Yes. Authenticity is divine currency, is a phrase they use. Your integrity, your competence, your humility. These ensure that when a door does open, you're not just tolerated because you're useful, you're genuinely welcomed because you're trusted.
Okay, this is powerful stuff. But how do we make it practical? How do we translate this ancient wisdom into something you can actually use, say, this week? The sources mention a favor map.
Yes, the favor map. It's basically a framework to move from just passively knowing people to actively, intentionally stewarding those key relationships God places in your path. It's not about making a hit list of who to use.
Right.
It's about identifying who's already in your orbit and figuring out where you can genuinely serve them and add value authentically.
So how does this map look? What are the parts?
The sources suggest thinking in terms of relational circles or orbits. First, there's the inner circle. These are your core mentors, your closest allies. Think Paul and Timothy in the text. People deeply invested in your growth, your character. They speak into your big decisions.
Got it, the close confidants.
Then, the middle circle. These are key influencers, strategic connections, maybe like Potiphar or Pharaoh's officials in Joseph's story. They hold positions or have networks that can really accelerate things if aligned with your purpose. You engage them strategically, but always with integrity.
Okay, inner middle.
And finally, the outer circle. Acquaintances, emerging connections, don't discount these. The sources repeatedly show favor popping up from unexpected places, someone you helped briefly years ago, a contact from a past project.
So map these people out. Then what? How do you activate these circles?
You activate them using those 3 pillars we talked about earlier, framed now as actions of stewardship.
Okay, refresh us on those.
First is serve, but it's described as agape-driven contribution, meaning you proactively look for needs you can meet, solutions you can offer. Remember, Joseph didn't just interpret the dream. He gave Pharaoh a practical plan for the famine. Massive value. The key is focusing on contribution, not keeping score or expecting immediate payback.
Makes sense? Serve first. What's second?
Second is honor, recognizing the intrinsic worth of the person, not just their title or what they can do for you. How does this look professionally? It means respecting their time, giving public credit where it's due, protecting their reputation, listening actively, communicating respectfully. You value the person, not just the access.
Honor the person, not the position.
Yeah.
Got it. And the third?
The third pillar is steward. This is about consistency, integrity, faithfulness over the long haul. Relationships, in this view, are trusts you're given, not tools you wield. You consistently invest, you're reliable, your actions match your words.
Serve, honor, steward.
Yeah.
Apply consistently across those relational circles.
Exactly. And doing this, the sources argue, builds a reputation that precedes you. You become known as someone trustworthy, honorable, competent, the kind of person people want to help, want to bring into the inner circle, rather than someone constantly angling for advantage.
So let's bring this all together. If you're listening to this, what's the main takeaway? What should you be focusing on moving forward? It seems the core message is, stop trying to bash down doors with ambition alone. Focus instead on aligning your character, your skills, your service right where you are. Prepare diligently, serve faithfully.
That's it, precisely. When that preparation, honed through service and integrity, meets a moment of genuine need, when providence aligns things, the sources are quite clear. The right doors, the gates of favor, will open. They have to.
Because you're not chasing influence anymore. You've become the solution that was needed.
Exactly. You were positioned, prepared, and trustworthy precisely when necessity knocked. And fundamentally, that means influence is truly relational at its core, not just positional.
That really reframes how you see people in positions of power, doesn't it? Less as obstacles or targets, and more as people you're called to serve and honor. It changes everything.
It really does. And that leads to the final thought the sources leave us with, something provocative for you to chew on. If influence is relational, and if the call is to serve first, how might shifting your approach today, genuinely serving and honoring the gatekeepers in your life, not only change your trajectory, but potentially position you to become a conduit of favor for someone else's destiny? And how might that, in turn, amplify your own lasting impact?